there last quarter of last year. Went also to Namibia. And I always love traveling to Africa. And when I go to any part of Africa, I usually don't like going there as a member of parliament in terms of treatment, but going there as an African, asking the taxi man, how are things here? Walking around as a normal African. And I'm always very pleased to be a citizen of a continent that is better than all the other continents. And anyone who, because I'm sure you've traveled far and wide, if you just remove the element of luck, in terms of our pockets are not as endowed, there is no continent in the entire world that's better than Africa. In terms of weather, in terms of the people, in terms of what you have to see with your eyes, in terms of interactions, I am a very proud African. And I can tell you also very proud Africans. The second thing, when I was invited, and I have to be truthful, I saw AEA, Evangelicals of Africa. And as you know, my main work is being a politician. Then I was wondering what kind of a topic will I be handling. One, because I never want to, I am an entrenched Christian in terms of belief and in terms of having no doubt. I mean, I am first, I think I am first a Christian and then second is anything else. So I always want to stay in the lane where I am glad we came to a hall, because I would reserve the pulpit for the people who should be in the pulpit. And I'm glad we are here in the hall, because it's always good to have that strata and to give the respect and decorum to the altar and to the church. And that's what I would always want to be. I am also one of the people who, yes, I'm a politician, a leader, but I believe, even before I go to my main speech, I'm here before you because of the profile. In terms of, when you look for a speaker, you have to look at who is that person, why are we calling him? Many times we have to refer to that, because that's what sells you as a person. But I believe in one thing. Me as Ndindi Nyoro, I am absolutely nothing if you remove what God has put in me. And I also believe, therefore, that all of us in this hall can be anything, any single thing, and especially when we give ourselves up to be vessels to the Almighty and the All-Powerful. And I was telling Kefa and our friends in the holding room, my grandfather, actually the brother to my grandfather, was a canon in ACK Church. And when I was campaigning to be member of parliament for the place I represent called Kiharu, anytime I could be given the mic, I would say, of course, I was introducing myself for the first time to the people. So when you're introducing yourselves, you are also canvassing for credibility, because people don't know you. So I'd be given the mic, I say my name. But one thing I could not leave behind is to say that, and my grandfather was a canon. So that people can at least attach that if this guy's grandfather was a canon, then he can't steal our money. And he has to do what is right. So I've grown in church, and also for the privilege, which is immense, to speak to the people who have been called by God to shape us. And as I talk to you, I am talking to you with a lot of gratitude, but also humility, because I know there are many things you do which I cannot. And I am glad to share some of the experiences we'll be sharing today. We are here in this hall as 21 African countries. And our nationalities were registered here. 21 African countries are represented here. I don't know whether you are absorbing that. You know, I'm used to talk to Kenyans. Now here we have people from Eritrea, from Ethiopia, from Zambia, from South Africa, from Gaborone, from Botswana, and all the other African countries. I wish we had even more time to share, interact, because I feel like I have identified my brothers and sisters again. And I can tell by the warmth in this room that clearly we should have many more of such. Yeah. If only to come together, share experiences, interact, and go back home. Even without a keynote speaker. And without a lot of formalities, because this is part of the basics why we are human beings. Forget about member of parliament and this leader and the rest. What makes us different from all the other living things is because we are social. We interact. So even if we just meet and do that alone, that is profound. So I'm a member of parliament for the second time, my second term. And I'm saying this for the benefit of our brothers and sisters from the many other African countries. I trained as an economist in the university, my first degree, a university called Kenyatta University, a Bachelor's of Arts in Economics, and then later on, Masters of Arts in Economics in the University of Nairobi, here in Kenya, and also another Master's in Economics, Public Policy, or Policy and Management from, again, Kenyatta University. I am also happy that towards the beginning of this year, I got a certificate again on economics from the London School of Economics. And this week I'll be traveling to Harvard University, where I'll be taking an executive certificate in economic development. And I did those things deliberately, especially from the master's part, because out of my interactions with many government officials, in my capacity as work as MP, and previously I used to be the chairman of the budget committee in parliament, I realized that the decisions we make as leaders are so far-reaching to be done in a mediocre manner. That a decision I make like this, me as a leader, is not just a show of how much I know. It is so far-reaching to the livelihoods of the people. You can imagine that leadership that we offer as African leaders even dictates the life expectancy of the people we lead. And therefore, I thought it is important for all of us as leaders to be a bit more serious. And to be more serious is to be more refined. Even in the places we lead, when you have more information, you are likely to make better judgment. And you are likely to make a more optimal decision. And you are more likely to make an efficient decision. And what education does many times, even if it doesn't sharpen you, at least it removes the cobwebs from your eyes. It removes the dogma, and it removes the many things that crowd your judgment and your decision making. So in Kiharu constituency, it's a fairly large constituency here in Kenya. I know in all the African countries represented here, we go to school in public schools. We have those public schools. And in Kenya, just like in many African countries that are here, public schools are not necessarily the best places you visit. Because you get dilapidated buildings. Of course, you get run down infrastructure. So from my first time, what I did, and what we did together with the people of Kiharu, we started uplifting the infrastructure in our learning institutions. We have around 112 in the primary level, 112 public primary schools, and all of them, it's a rural constituency. We've been able to construct new ones where they were needed. We've been able to refurbish the old ones. Irene is actually my neighbor at home. She can attest that all our public primary schools, learners actually step on tiles. They step on tiles like these ones. All of them, all public primary schools in the place I represent. And because in Kenya we have something called National Government Constituency Development Fund. And it's the work of the Member of Parliament to oversight that fund. So what we've done is to transform the way that fund is done. We do something called labor-based, where there's no one who makes profit. When we give a school money, that money is spent from the first shilling to the last one in that institution, other than introducing a contractor who will then get the profit out of the project. And we've been able to do all that work. There is a time I visited Cape Town in South Africa, and I was in a place called Camps Bay. So when I was walking around, I saw, and I was so surprised to see a municipal school that was looking like a college in London. So I took photos, and when I came back home, I called my staff, and we decided we are going to transform our learning institutions to that level. And out of that, beyond the tiling and the infrastructure, we started landscaping and cabro. I wish, if I knew the whole Africa is here, I would have projected some of the photos of our public primary schools, because we've been able to do 65 of them holistically, cabro, planting palm trees, doing them very nicely, up to the point where the people in our village, when they do weddings, they go for photo sessions in our schools. One called Mudigiriri, you can check them later. Even the school I went and Irene went is also very well done, 65 of them. And this year, we started a program we are calling Kiharu Masomo Bora. It's taking care of learners in our day secondary schools. You know, that what I was talking about is primary schools. Just like many African countries, you also have secondary schools. When you leave primary, you go to secondary. So secondary schools, we started a program we called Kiharu Masomo Bora. And that program, we went more to the soft side of education. Yes, we've done infrastructure, laboratories, and the rest, but we also decided to keep the learners in school through this program. Kiharu has around 65 day secondary schools, those who go home every day, but they are in secondary schools. And we have around 12,000 learners. They pay, listen to this, we've been able to subsidize education in our place. So we have subsidized to Kenya shillings, 500 shillings per term, which is around $4 US per term as school fees. And out of that money, learners eat in school from Monday to Saturday. I know that doesn't sound real. That they only pay $4 per term, not per day, per term of 3 months. And learners eat in school from Monday to Saturday. Beyond doing the other things like buying revision books and the rest, because we believe, as a leader, the leadership we are offering is not just for today. Our work is to lay a foundation for a better Africa, a foundation for our secure countries. Education plays a critical role in that. And that is why I have not mentioned to you roads and the rest, which we also do as leaders, is because I believe the foundation of societal growth and community development is in education. When you raise productivity per person, you are raising the stakes of also the community and the stakes for our own individual countries. Now, I want to go to today's conversation. And I requested that at the end, I will reserve a few minutes for interaction in what we call questions and answers. I didn't come here because I know a lot I came here because it's African to share experiences. And the experiences I have could also help some of us, and I could also benefit from the many questions and interactions we'll have towards the end of this presentation. When I was invited to talk about community, about development, and we are church leaders, my mind first of all shifted to my grandfather, who was a canon, to look at him, because I'm talking to him today in you, because he was a church leader. So I was trying to check at the kind of decisions he had to make, and the same way that the decision you have to make today. So, and because once we go to the economic issues, we may delve deeper and deeper into them. Before I go there, let me also say this. I have read many books, but you can attest, all of you, there is no book full of wisdom than the Holy Book. And I wish, as even leaders, forget about the one for reading a verse. You know, when you just want to tick, you read, so you read a verse. If you actually read through the lines, and I have done it from Genesis first verse to the last one of Revelation. I've done it twice, at least, consistently, without now the ones we read on a day-to-day basis. You realize it is a great injustice any leader does when you don't, first of all, draw wisdom that is divine. The loser is you as a leader if you don't. Because you get practical ways on dealing with issues, and you get it at the highest level of wisdom there can be. And by the way, I also need to tell you, as my brothers and sisters, before I go into these jargons of economics, I know we are church leaders, but we are also human beings. So sometimes you have doubts about many things. You are from Eritrea, you have doubts about, is what you are doing safe enough? You are from this other place, and because we are human beings, we are weak. But I want to tell you, if there is anyone in this hall who has any doubt in their mind and their heart that what we talk about you as church leaders is actually true, if there is any preach. If you had any doubt before that could it be, maybe, could it be, maybe not, the maybe not part, leave it on your table today, because I want to confirm to you if you had any doubt. Remove everything else in this world. What makes sense is what you teach and what you preach about. Even if I was to end my speech there, that to me is very important. Many times you see us as leaders, politicians, talking many things and doing things, and what is a human being? What is a human being? When you look at it deeply and think, you relate stories of the Bible from Joseph to David, you relate all the stories from Hezekiah to anyone else, then you realize God can use anyone. And if God can use anyone, it therefore means it's not about you. It's about who is using you. You've read the story of the prophet he sent. You know better than me about these matters. Go to this home. I want you to anoint somebody. The very well looking come. Must be this one. No, not this one. Other ones come. So everyone had come. There was no one to be anointed. Then, is there anyone here? Anyone else? Yeah. Can you just imagine it was you? Is there anyone else? Meaning all the people had been called. Is there anyone else? Yes, there is. Lakini, he's looking after the goats. Can you call him? We see. Then he comes and it's the one. So is it about him or is it about where the power is coming from? It's about where the power comes from. And if we internalize that every day, we'll always be humble. Even as African politicians, we'll always be very humble. To realize that the responsibility we have, so many people can do them. So it is important that when we have the responsibility, we just do it to the best of our ability. Because there are so many people who can be used, but you have that privilege. As church leaders here today, all of us are leaders in this hall. That can you imagine, there's no scarcity of people on who can be used to do exactly what you do. So that because you have that privilege to do it, you lose nothing by doing it with all the capacity you have. You lose nothing. In fact, I usually realize when I'm lazing around at home, I get more tired than when I am busy. Then why can't you then be busy doing something? So community. Everything we do as a community, and community here does not just mean our localities. Even Africa is a community. Everything we do together for common goals, that is advancing community interests. So, what is it that we should talk about today here, because we are church leaders and we are leaders in our own rights? So when we talk about our institutions and the work that we do, what comes to our mind first when we talk about community? Of course, the first thing is to preach, especially on Sundays. But I am here to say that we have much more role to play. And I'm not talking to you as a church leader in the church you lead. I'm here talking to you as a church leader in your country. So when I'm talking to you from Malawi, I'm talking to you representing the entire Malawi and all the people who do the work you do. So when we talk about that, can we first of all take a slice of it, just a small slice? So if you are in a church leader leading 1,000 people in your church, of course you have monetary needs. You have societal needs that you need to impart to the people. But let me just talk about this money part only. There are things you need to do as a church. So there are things you need to raise money for. There is a church which has a congregation. Maybe they require $100,000 for a project. $100,000 for a project. So there is one church which will do, in Kenya we call them harambes or fundraisers. So they'll do fundraisers for 2 years to get that money, $100,000. But there's also a church where one person in the congregation will actually shoulder that responsibility alone. That one person. So it gives us a reflective mode. That yes, I'm not talking about the spiritual part because I don't want to purport to teach the fish how to swim. That's your area. So I'm not only talking about this other side. So you have a church of 1,000 people. They come to church, that's your membership. So you have a congregation that needs to undertake a project of $100,000. With a congregation of 100,000, of 1,000, you may raise this money over a period of 2 years, every Sunday, canvassing for that money. But there is another person doing exactly what you are doing. In one Sunday, two men or two ladies will just say, we take it up, give us the bank account, consider it done. When I reflect about that, and I was reflecting about it when I was coming here, then I realized what we do as leaders, yourself included, is beyond every Sunday. It must go into the lives of these people every single day. Because if you are leading an empowered people, it means you are the more empowered. If I'm a leader in the place I come from, and there is no one who needs any assistance to take their children to school, it means we have elevated our problems to something more. We are no longer dealing with basics. And I thought it is important we talk about that. In Kenya, for example, the schools we attended, including the one I went, were church-sponsored. Meaning, devoid of the church, majority of us would not have accessed schools. You know, many times it looks obvious. It looks obvious. I went to a primary school, ACK sponsored, Catholic sponsored, this sponsored. It looks obvious because we didn't have to participate in it. But now it is us who are in those positions today. And when I reflect that there are men who sat down, there are women who sat down, when education was not a norm, it was not fashionable to think about education. It was more about how do you sell your daughter. It was more about how your son can herd more cows. That there are people who sat down without resources, first of all, gave up their land. They just say, you have 10 acres, from today you have 9. You have 8, you no longer have 8. You have 7.2 acres. They seeded land, every person, to make land available for us to go to school. And then when you remove that from ourselves today, the kind of people we would be, the kind of barbarism we would be peddling around as people would be monumental. People sat down, sacrificed. In Kenya, maybe close to 80% of our running institutions were started by people like you, seated in this hall today, who came together. They started now providing solutions for the problem that was there. And now we are where we are. The same thing with institutions, health institutions in Kenya. Majority of them were actually started by churches. You can imagine that. People realize we need a health center here. They go ahead, they start it. We may start arguing. There were some external people helping them. Far from it. Some were even started by African indigenous churches. So I am here to talk about that kind of transformation that is beyond today, but even more beyond a person going towards the society and the community. That we must not keep on thinking that was a problem for those people then. Our problems in Africa are not yet solved. And there are no other leaders to look at and point at them. The leaders to do things in Africa are in this hall today. So we must start taking that challenge. The challenge of transforming our continent from where we are serving. So there are things that I want to highlight, which I would challenge all of us to do. As a church, as leaders, as we lead. Community development is first of all doing away with the problems. So you are doing away with the problems in our societies. So which are these problems in the first place? Because by the time you want to get rid of problems, what are they? I believe in the many African countries I've visited, including our own motherland here in Kenya, the number one societal problem we have to deal with is lack. In other words, poverty. So whatever thing we are addressing, at the back of our mind as leaders, let's always know there is a bigger elephant you must keep on fighting here. And this bigger elephant is called poverty. But how do we deal with poverty many times? Aid, donors, fundraising to help is okay. That's good for short term. But I want you here, because you've read many books, cite for me one model of a country that grew out of aid. One country in the whole world that we cite now, this country grew out of people donating money to them. I've never seen. Show me one university in the entire of Africa, you tell me, this one was established courtesy of donations, and it has reached there courtesy of donations. Why is it that we can't show fundamentally transformative agendas that has only come out of being given? Then it means, from today, the leaders here are not leaders of donations anymore. They are leaders of bigger transformation. Because there is no better way of judging the future but by the past. So judge from the past. Show me one country in the entire world which we read in economics books and we say, you know, they were very poor and now they are very rich because they were given money. As donations, as aid. Where? None. Zero. So it has not worked for 200 years. It's not likely to work in the next 10 years. So then how do we do it? And I'll finish before you know. So don't think that there are so many things. The ones I'm saying are the speech. There's no other speech after what I'm saying. So look at it this way. We are here as Africa. In our generation, China has gotten transformed. The China you know, which is building roads in all our African countries, all of you looking at me, there are Chinese in your country building roads. Gaborone from airport, I saw a big project. You dig deeper, China. Here in Kenya, of course. Ethiopia, I saw Ethiopians. Addis is now a very booming city in Africa. We are all proud of it. So China got transformed from 1978. This is what happened. There was a man who was called Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was the president of China, or the leader of the Communist Party of China, prior to 1976. So he did the work of uniting Chinese people to be who they are. So that's the work he did. Most of his policies were not sound economically speaking. One was called Cultural Revolution. Some of his policies led to millions of Chinese dying out of hunger. But we remember him as a unifier. So he passed on in 1976. There was a gang of 4 people who didn't want a man called Deng Xiaoping to become president. So they delayed him for 2 years up to 1978. In 1978, a man called Deng Xiaoping became president of China. Park it there in your mind. There's a point I want to drive home. Park Deng Xiaoping somewhere in your mind. South Korea, when Kenya was getting independence, just around the same time all our African countries, most of them were getting independence, here comes South Korea. A man called General Park becomes president. He was actually a general of the army. The man becomes president in 1960. And he starts something called an export-led growth economy in South Korea. And the man comes up with a committee which was meeting every month once. For 19 years, he was president. He never missed one meeting. The exports of South Korea grew by 364 times in the 19 years he was president. Forgive me, I'm talking even like blowing this mic away. Because this is where the bigger problem of Africa lies. And this is where our solution will come from. Chinese people never came up with oil in 1978. There are no minerals that they got from 1978. South Korea, they never came up with oil or gold or silver like the abundance of it in South Africa and Botswana. They came up with one gold standard called leadership. That out of a decision of two men, out of a decision of General Park, out of the decisions made by Deng Xiaoping, that now the Chinese people who are more poorer than us, the South Koreans who are at the same level as Tanzanians, now they can only lend us money and teach us how to live. Leadership. Many times we trivialize what decision-making means as a leader, you included. But I want to tell you, the transformation of the entire world, of the church, of countries, of continents, none came about because this country got oil and the other one got gold. If that was the standard, there are many who have gotten oil and others gold, and they are more poor. So when we talk about leadership, leadership, I am repeating, goes beyond the small decisions we are making about small things. Leadership has to go further. That Singapore, the one we know today, at independence around the same time with Kenya and all of us seated here, those guys, we were at the same level. If you went somewhere and you saw a Chinese, a South Korean, and a Singaporean, you as an African, they would have paved the way for you to fast pass because you are wealthier than them. That one distinction, one thing, has led to all this difference. Leaders who are selfless, leaders who wake up in the morning to think about their countries, and leaders who do the right thing for our continent. I'm not talking about your presidents in many various African countries. I'm talking about the leaders in this hall today. So I was at the side of poverty, but I brought in here because even if we talk about many things, what is poverty? We measure it in various dimensions. GDP per capita, that's GDP per person. Income per capita, income per person. So if we are talking about a South Korean who is maybe 20 times richer than me. So I would rather then talk about South Korea and forget everything else. Because in our generation, they have been able to live better lives in multiples than all of us, including the years they live. Just because of leadership. But here at home, what do we do? When maybe those other leaders were thinking about their countries growing exports, establishing huge companies like Samsung and Hyundai, as around here, we were talking about who gets the bigger size of land. We were talking about our own children, how they go to Europe to study. Instead of bringing that Europe to our continent, we took a few of us there, and our continent still lags behind. We must break forth from this. And there is a bigger calling we have as church leaders. The bigger calling is to advocate for the right leadership in the African continent. The wealthiest country, the top 10 wealthiest country in the world. And they are here as the poorest, among the poorest in the world. We must not accept that as Africans. Even if we do whatever we want to do in our own small ways, in our own cocoons, and we don't come out to propagate and to fashion and to demand for the right leadership, we are letting our continent down. So, poverty is where my point was. My brother here is in the UK, was in the UK. He will have a congregation of 10 people. They'll do something that will help much more than a congregation of 10,000. Why? Those people are empowered. Even if they are 10, I'm totally speaking Spartan about the money part. Because we talked about spiritual part. It's me to sit, you tell me. I can't tell you much about that because I'll be teaching the fish how to swim, which I don't want to go into that area. So, these people are empowered. So when we talk about we are poor and the other people are rich, what are we talking about? First of all, we are talking about they are able to afford necessities. They are no longer talking about where to sleep. They are no longer talking about where to go to school and healthcare. Their needs are higher. They are done with the basics. Then second thing, which is critical and important, and it's the same thing I started with in terms of education, is something called productivity per person. When we say Africa is not as endowed, and we compare an African with a South Korean, what are we actually comparing? South Korea has the same population as Kenya. Let me use Kenya as a laboratory here. So South Korea is in the ranges of 50 millions. Kenya is in the same range. So when we talk about the countries that are advanced, then what are we talking about? Then Kenya should be the same as South Korea because our population is the same. And it's the people who matter. Then why are we different? Why are we different? It's because of the productivity per every person. The productivity of this South Korean vis-a-vis the productivity of this Kenyan, one is 20 times more. So what functions, what adds productivity per person? So that even as we do what we are doing in our own areas, we also focus on that. The number one thing is called technology. And technology comes from education. You can't talk about technology devoid of education. Information. Information is the one that brings technology that does things more efficiently. Where you go to Europe, you realize there is a person with a 10,000 acre farm with only 20 people tending after that farm. But you here, you have 2 acres, but you have 100 people tending after that farm. So what is the productivity per person there? Are we actually creating just social jobs, or are we creating productivity for our people? So that's how it comes in. So you go to Ethiopia, just like in Kenya. The biggest thing we are doing, which we are very proud of, we are creating, we are calling them EPZs, for people to go become tailors. Why? Because labor is cheapest in Ethiopia. So you look for the place people can do something for you almost for free. So that's where you go for it. And those are the things we come to chest dump as leaders, that we are creating jobs for our African people. We are not creating jobs. We are keeping them busy. Productivity per person is something that we must keep on propagating at the basic level education, at a higher level technology. That's where universities come in, and that is where we add the value of the person as the provider of labor. In economic interactions, a human being is the source of labor. An entrepreneur is the source of capital. So labor and capital interact. What the laborer gets is called wages, which you call salaries. What the entrepreneur gets is called profit. So you, as a provider of labor, you only get a higher productivity when there are more machines involved in your work. When you can only till your land with hands, your productivity per person is so low that you are a slave. So we talk about poverty, increasing productivity per person. The second thing, access to education, I talked about it before. It is our obligation to make sure that our societies are accessing education, including institutions, advocating in our various governments, that you are doing a lot of injustice to the people where you live, when there are still school-going children who are not going to school. I mean, it is our obligation, all of us, whether it's advocacy, whether it's actually doing it, we must do it. Of course, I talked about healthcare. I'll not buttress that point because I want to go to the last thing. Actual physical development, including the citation I gave you about here in Kenya, the schools we attended. It doesn't have to be permanent. Start a structure. Let people have somewhere they are calling a school. They'll talk about better infrastructure later as they proceed. Don't wait for you to get a story building. Even us, my grandfathers, my fathers never went to a stone walled building, but it was a school. So let's start from where we are. And of course, it's our work to make sure that we keep on bridging the inequality gap as the people in this hall. And it all boils down to leadership. Now, there are a few things I want to highlight here because I am not speaking for too long. Now, in our various areas, I've moved from the macro. Let me come to the micro in what we do specifically. One of the things that changed my mind are some seminars that used to be organized for us as youth by the church. So the church there is a revival fellowship called East African Revival Fellowship. So my mother belongs to East African Revival Fellowship. So they used to organize seminars for young people. Some have stuck in my mind ever since. Gentlemen would come, I am a doctor. So, I'm from a village, very humble place. So you are here interacting with a doctor. Person telling you they want to university. They started medicine. Then another one comes, teaching you about leadership. My transformation as a human being started there. Seeing people who are telling me things which ordinarily are not present in my village. So, all of us, let's learn. The institutions we run, they operate there for spiritual nourishment, but they shape the destinies of the communities you lead. The people believe the church has the solution for the legal problems they have, the financial problems they have, the education problems they have. I came here to tell you, you will not run away from that responsibility. I came to remind you, you shoulder it, God will provide. Those small things you do, just accelerate them. As the beacon of knowledge in the locality, in your country, it is your work to make sure that information is flowing. Any place where information is not flowing, those people are in darkness. When is the last time as a church, for your young men and ladies who come to your church, did you ever organize a career talk? Just for people to know there's a difference between a veterinary doctor and a medical doctor. Just for people to know, in this, there's something called computer science, and there is another one called electrical and electronics. You have traveled through aircrafts to come to Kenya, but there are so many people who just need that distinction. To know, just for information to flow, for this person to open up their mind. Open up their mind and know the world is bigger than my village. The person who should bring the world to their village is the people in this hall. Some of these things, I'm sure you know them. I'm reminding you because I know they're far-reaching. When is the last time you call people, not even with any machine or equipment, just for that person to talk to your congregation about healthcare. Just that. About you need to exercise, about intake of sugar and these other things, what they do to you. Economically, as I told you, a human being is a supplier of labor. The longer you supply labor, the more people you have living healthy lives, the more agents of the economy you have. Healthcare services labor. The work of education is to add value to a human being. The work of healthcare is to service that labor. So primarily the people you deal with, two things are very critical to them: education and healthcare. What do you do as a church in those two arenas? You may not have much to give, but there's a person who only needs that information. Even in I don't remember anywhere we went for a seminar, people talked and gave us books. How to be a good leader, how to do this. It is that word that was imparted to me that changed me, not the gift I received from those people. So, lastly, if there is one thing I talked with passion with, is about leadership. I go around my our constituency, and I have seen a correlation between schools that perform so well and the leadership of those schools. Leadership of a church and how the church turns out to be. Then it means leadership is very critical. What are you doing in your own way to make sure there are better burgeoning leaders from the communities you lead up to the country? If the community I was in, that church never organized that seminar, for me to go learn there is a bigger thing than my village, and to interact with the people who I would ordinarily not have interacted with at that level. If that never happened, would I be an asset to my community now? That's the reflection I want us to have. So those things, then the basis you are laying today, if you don't lay it, you'd rather look at it this way. You'd rather you grow 3 people. 3. Forget about a 10,000 congregation to say I have a big congregation. What if you touch 3 people? One becomes the best president for your country. The other one becomes a far-reaching education minister. The other one becomes the treasury CS or a cabinet minister in charge of money in your country. And you retire as a pastor. The decisions those people will make could be far-reaching than a congregation as big as you do want to count it. If you are here as a teacher shapes a human being. Maybe 10,000 people pass through the hands of that teacher. 10,000, they retire. Among the 10,000 becomes Deng Xiaoping or becomes General Park of South Korea. They change the fortunes of the entire country. Then it would have been better for this teacher not to be tied with heading 10,000 people and concentrate with this one who will change the society forever. And because you are not sure who is this one, then you have to do it to all. Only that you have to do it in such a manner that you are creating many General Parks. You are creating many Mwai Kibaki, one of the presidents we celebrate in this country. Because then what would it be? And we Africans, let's talk it direct. You are a teacher. Who taught the president in one of the wealthiest countries here in Africa? The person became president of that wealthiest country, but he read the most poor people in the world. As a teacher, what did you do to Africa? You messed our continent. So what am I trying to say here? we have an obligation here in this hall as our responsibility to grow the next cadre of African leaders from our community up. There's no African country president who jumps from Europe and comes here to lead us. They come from our community, become prefect in a school. Then after that, they go and start a business. In that business, they become wealthy through corruption. Then they get the money, and they come and bribe all the population. They become African leaders, and they go to AU. And then our countries depreciate and decay. The people to break that are in this hall today. And leadership, always remember, when you look at it up, it's a reflection of down. So we start from down here. That young man leading youth in our church, first of all, they are empowered by you to become leaders with integrity, leaders who love their countries, leaders who love our continent, leaders who are doing the right thing. They go to the university, they become the same people. It is the same people who will come back to become members of parliament, ministers, and presidents. The root of that is in this hall today. But as we wait for that, it is also the work of us in this hall to advocate that those who are already occupying those positions have to style up. If you as a leader here would stop a leader from committing something that would cost your country $10 million, and you stop it out of your advocacy, even if you retire from work, you have done more than a person who have labored for 70 years. Because this money, the impact it will have in your own country is much bigger than you being a nice guy, a nice servant, who speaks nothing, who is at peace with everyone, but that peace is costing so many people out of their livelihoods. Advocacy, talking, offering alternatives, and breathing sense to even the leaders who are there now. Even if they are not very good, make them to be not so bad through your advocacy. Very last, I don't know whether it happens in many other African countries here, but us as leaders exploit our populations through tribalism. We come and remind you, you know, you come from this clan, eh? You know, you come from this tribe. The other people are your enemies. I don't know whether it is just Kenya or it happens everywhere else. That, out of self-interest, a leader comes to tell you, as a normal African, if I tell my brother to start, you who is not a Kenyan, you already know whether we come from the same tribe. Can you imagine? If I call one of my brothers from DRC, I ask you, who is Kenyan here and who is from Congo? You wouldn't know. We look the same. But during election time, some buffoon comes to us and tells us, you know, you are Sona, and this other person is this tribe, eh? So this is your enemy. Let's stop this nonsense completely. It is to whose benefit that we exploit those schisms. It is to the benefit of the person who wants to dominate you. When you have a country like General Park of South Korea, who even wants to care which tribe we came from? Who cares even? Who cares the tribe Nelson Mandela came from? I don't even want to care. Do you even want to care? But there is some fellow during elections time, you know those guys are this tribe, and us are this tribe. So what? It is our work, the people in this hall, to strengthen the fabric of our countries so that people do not continue to exploit them for leadership greed, so that we take it upon ourselves to bind our countries together in unity. when there is homogeneity, as the Bible says, when there is unity, there is a blessing. Even in terms of the fabric of a country, when there is homogeneity of the people are able to move in one direction together. And the best way to do that is to detribalize our countries, detribalize our continent, because you are one people. All these things that are brought to us to show us this person is different is hogwash. The very last thing I want you to carry home. I have done business since I was in first year in campus. And in fact, when I graduated from campus, and my parents came for my graduation, my mother was there with the friends. My son is graduating, you know our African mothers. My son works with the AEA, you know. My son is in London. My son, I know now, some of you, your mother, in the groups they go. No, I was just from receiving the phone call from my brother who is now in Nairobi. They are doing that in our villages. Because they are happy, they are proud of you. Some of you here, your wife went to a church meeting. When you called, he reported back in the group. Oh, that's my husband. You know he's now in Nairobi. People have to know you are here. People have to know that you are no longer in Eritrea. You are now in Kenya. You are not in Gaborone. You are in Kenya. And even a Kenyan, when I'm in Botswana, I'll call you back when I come. I'm now in Botswana. Because you're proud. So, proud mothers. So she comes proud. Proud that my son has graduated with a degree in economics. You know what they want? My son works with this big bank. My son works with MTN. My son works with Airtel. My son works with the Access Bank. My son works with Atijara Wafa Bank. My son works with Ethio Telecom. Hey, it's pride, man. It's pride. So they come there. I'm graduating. I tell them, mother, listen, when I'm giving a speech, when you go back home, pray for me not to get a job. I was graduating. Are we together? So they have come for, you guys, I'm sure you hold graduation parties, more than us even. Especially Ethiopia, I know you hold big ones. So graduation parties, big people come, they fill up the hall, they dance. The last person to speak is usually the one graduating. That's the last person, eh? So I was the last one because I was graduating. Told them, I want you because you pray. When you go home, pray for me not to get a job. They were wondering, is it the microphone that is wrong? Or what's wrong with this fellow? I repeated, pray for me not to get a job. Because I had done my math. There's no way I'll become wealthy through employment. So I thought, why am I even starting with it? If there is no empirical evidence that you cannot get wealthy out of employment, why am I even starting? You know what we say? I first get a job, first to learn a few things, just to stabilize. I say, no stability, I don't want. Of all the ways I had known how to get rich, getting employed was one of the ways not to. I decided I'm not. So I graduate there. Hey, I hear my classmates are getting jobs in the banks, in audit firms. I almost think I hadn't looked at this matter correctly. Maybe I need to get a job. But I refused. This is the point I'm trying to drive home. After that, started business. But the point I want to deliver is this. In my life, I have made more money passively than I have made money actively. So I'm not telling you about those books we read, Rich, What, this, that. I'm telling you about reality. I have made more money by investing than I have made more money by working for it. I have made more money passively than I have made money actively. The people, Jagote, Patrice Motsepe, there are people from South Africa here. Patrice Motsepe is rich because of what? African Edible Minerals. There is a bank, I think Time Bank, Sanlam. Okay, Sanlam is an insurance company. So who did Dagote ever sell a policy to? Patrice Motsepe, sorry. Who? Ever. I have an insurance policy, Patrice Motsepe sold it to me. Time Bank. I bank with Time Bank owned by Patrice Motsepe. He's the one who served me when I visited my bank branch. Nigeria, Globacom, Glo. So, I have a line I communicate with from Globacom. The owner, Mike Adenuga. Did he sell the SIM card to you? No. Did he go to fix the tower for your village to get a good connection? No. So what are they? What is Patrice Motsepe? Where are they getting money? Because they are billionaires, or the ones I've mentioned. The company they are associated with, who are they in those companies? They are investors in those companies. They are entrepreneurs. Their work is only to allocate capital. There is one gentleman I read in this December, his book, called Femi Otedora. He's a Nigerian. He's written a very nice book on basically life, but 80% of it is business. So he started a company, Forte Oil, other companies in between. Currently, he's one of the largest shareholders of one of the big banks in Nigeria. Okay. Here in Kenya, there is a bank we call Equity Bank. The person who leads it is called Dr. James Mwangi. He's the CEO. He has around 5% of that bank. 5%. The dividend he got last year from his 5% is $10 million US. Dividend for 1 year, $10 million US. $10 million US dividend. He didn't sell shares, dividend. I want you to go with me. So, let me jump all the way. And I go to a country like DRC. The largest bank there is now Equity Bank, which is a Kenyan bank. That's the largest bank in DRC now. Who are the owners of these banks? We don't know them, but we say, but is it true really? This is what I want us to have in our mind, talk to our congregations, and propagate. Africa will not change out of Africans going to school with a singular aim of getting jobs when they graduate. You as a parent here, your child will not become wealthy by them going to University of Lagos, for going to University of Nairobi, for them to graduate and get jobs. You will be a normal parent you will be a normal pastor when you encourage that young man to become a lawyer, to come and set up, to come and get employed in a law firm. You'll be a normal minister. For us to become abnormal, extraordinary, let's show people to do things beyond the ordinary that has ruled us for so long. People don't go into their schools to get jobs. People go into their schools to remove the cobwebs in their thinking, for them to become more efficient in decision making, to become creators of things. And also know this as the last thing, what I told you. There is more money to be made passively than there is money to be made actively. Let's know what happens in Africa, what our stock markets. You are a beacon of light to so many people. So get exposed also. Get exposed. When is the last time, I think I'm just talking. If you come from an agricultural dominant area, when is the last time you called an expert to talk to your congregation about agriculture? To talk to them about bookkeeping. Many of your congregation are slaves of their farms. They have 2 cows. Those 2 cows have employed them. It's not them who have employed the cows. They don't keep books. There is a time we went home. So we called my mother with my sisters. All the time my mother couldn't come to Nairobi and spend a night. I'm going back to the village. Now who will give my cows this and that? Who will tend after our goats? So we called her. Come with a book and pen. Can you write to us how many liters of milk you get per month? She wrote. Then after you take the milk to the dairy, what happens? Within the month, I take the feeds and the salt from that dairy. How much remains? This much remains. That what remains because our supper is not big. Do you buy napier grass? Yes. How much? This much. We did the math and realized, us as the children of our mother who sets money every month, for her to buy sugar, for her to buy flour, for her to buy a good cloth or a good dress, we realized we sent money to our cows, not our mother. Because he spends all the money in the cows. And the cows are not profitable. How many of your congregation are engaged in being so busy, but they do nothing? We have gone far to the congregation. Okay, how many of you? Before you go to the congregation, how many of you are engaged in that business? You are busy all the time, busy doing things, but when you sit down with a pen and paper, you realize you are a slave of your engagement. You don't get any profit out of it. You actually bleed cash in that engagement. You get stressed, but you remain a slave of whatever you do. So open your mind, learn about investments, the stock markets there are in your country, others in Africa, what are the returns. You may realize that it may start with you optimally allocating the money you have before you now go to the other people and propagate the same to them. All the people rich in the world, rich in Africa, is not out of doing things. It is out of allocating the money they have. It is out of passive investments. It is out of decision making in allocating money and less about actual work. Thank you very much, my brothers and sisters.